have everybody's got a Dharma request sheet there in front of you. You can get that.
Cùng xin ta tơ sân thiện vì sư hòa huệ chi y thế chúng sinh xin cha miao hoa lần giáo đạo 我们如何了生他是离苦得乐，殊胜无生。为这三个 Berkeley virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, present the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Namo Sadanto Suche Doye Olahudi Samyao Sanputoshe. Wu Shang Shen Shen Wei Miao Fa Bai Qian Wan Jue Nan Zhao Yu Wo Jin Jian Wan De Shou Chi Yan Jie Ru Lai Chen Shi Yi. Can we do it together? Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. Today is August 4th. It is the middle, heading towards the latter end of the summer here in Berkeley, California. And our Sutra lecture is coming to you from the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery and is being translated into Chinese by our Dharma friends in the Gold Coast, sending it out over yy.com in Mandarin, by golly, and we have a Vietnamese translation up here in the balcony. So we have a trilingual Sutra lecture. We're just hoping somebody will volunteer to translate it into Spanish, and then we're all set. We're covered for California, pretty much. So my name is Reverend Heng Sure, and tonight we're going to be looking into the Flower Garland Sutra, 10 Grounds chapter, the 8th stage, 8th ground of the Bodhisattva's 10. Okay? We're delighted to include tonight the Shu family all the way from Shanghai. So Wes and Tiffany and Winston and Maddie have come a long way. Find out you're in Davis, man. You ought to come here more often, dude. So now I know where you are. We got my eye on you. So and also we have Homero's young boy who is here. What a strong boy he is. What a beautiful kid. Yeah, he sits there. Yeah, what's that? Listening to the Dharma. He sets up, moves the blankets around, and takes responsibility. So, how old, Homero? 6? Nah. Good roots coming up. Okay. I can't hear. I missed your birthday. When was it? Really? Oh, hey, I got to pay attention next year. I won't miss it again. Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. So as we're getting settled, the Guanyin Bodhisattva recitation session up at City of 10,000 Buddhas is over as of today. We're going to be talking about that later. After the lecture, we're going to go look at two things that I think are very important. One is earthquake preparedness. Coming to the monastery may be the best thing you've ever done, even if you don't understand a word of Dharma. The U.S. Geological Survey's booklet on earthquake preparedness is a gem, and we have a Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean and English translation here. So more on that. And then later on, the fires, one called the Mendocino Complex Fire, is 4 miles from City of 10,000 Buddhas. And we've had some amazing responses already. I'll show you later on. If you all would join me, please, in invoking spiritual presence. Here's what we're going to chant. It's we do the Chinese. And it's the name of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Avatamsaka Assembly. And it's a chance to practice your Mandarin and also to be sincere and invite the spiritual presence that first put this Dharma into the world, invite them to come. And there's a, yeah, the chair is good. There we go, in the back. All right. Good. Ready? Here we go. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa Namo Da Fang Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa Namo Da Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa. One more time. Namo Da Fang Guang Fu Hua Yan Ji Hua Yan Hai O Pu Sa. Still sounds to me like a processional. I can visualize banners and pennants coming this way with clouds of incense and devas on all sides. So, if you would please turn to page 46 and 47. We're up at the top. We're going to practice some choral reading, reading in unison, community reading. Those of you who don't read Chinese characters can look at the romanization, like the first one, R-U, S-H-I, R-E-N, T-I-A-N, like that. Read along. It's fun to hear those sounds coming out of your own mouth and realizing that Chinese language has been on the planet for minimum 5,000 years in the form that we have it now, by and large. And it kind of grooves in their psyche when something has been in people's mouths and ears all that time. It's new in the West, but it's really fun to take part in something that old. You know, a human invention that's that old. Okay, and then when we get to the English, we're going to recite in unison. Ready? Here we go. I'll give you a line and you give it back. Ready? 如是人天所应供. Your turn. 如是于此智慧令观察。五边佛法悉得成，一念超过囊众横。Okay, we actually read that last week, so let's read the next paragraph in Chinese. Ready? 菩萨住此妙智地，此获广大神通力，一念分身遍十方，如船入海，因风激，引风激。Fourth tone. Good. Okay. Over to the right. English. We'll read those two paragraphs together in unison. Ready? We'll start with this is how. Here we go. This is how those worthy of God's and humans' offerings give wisdom to you and help you contemplate, so you realize the boundless Buddha Dharma and in a single thought transcend your prior practices. Continue. The Bodhisattva, abiding on this stage of wonderful wisdom, then attains the strength of psychic powers. In a single thought, his division bodies pervade the 10 directions, the way a ship on the ocean sails with the wind. Okay. You probably saw the two typos there. Realizes should be realize. Transcends should be transcend, to match the proper tense. Okay, quick catch up for those who are here, who've been away from this sutra lecture for a while. We're looking at the Bodhisattva path as taught by the Flower Garland Sutra. Flower Garland Sutra is called the Avatamsaka in Sanskrit, Huayan Jing in Chinese. Of all the Buddha's texts, it's the one that tells you about the Bodhisattva path most completely, most clearly. It's the one. You want to know about the Bodhisattva path? Open this text. Among the whole sutra, there's one chapter in particular that is especially geared to the complete path from start, middle, completion. That's called the 10 stages, 10 grounds chapter, Shidipin in Chinese, Dashabhumi in Sanskrit. The 10 grounds, 10 stages is the one that gives us insights into the Bodhisattva's thinking, how the Bodhisattva thinks, talks, acts, reflects. And it's progressive. Goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. We're now on 8. We're finishing 8. And my goodness, we've been working on the 8th stage, 8th ground, for months now. And we just passed the biggest turning point in the whole chapter, which is how the Bodhisattva goes from consciousness to wisdom. It's an actual physical change, as well as mental, spiritual, psychic change. There's transformations in the mind of the Bodhisattva, and he or she works different after that. Each of these chapters has a section in prose, so it's sentence, paragraph, page. But then they take that very same teaching and they put it into verse. So it's da 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 da. Of course, it's more terse, tighter, but it gives you a real capsule, a nugget, a diamond of the principles of this ground. What has just happened is the 8th stage Bodhisattva gets to a crossroad and has a crisis. When her mind is changing from consciousness to wisdom, it's very easy to freak out. It's very easy to think you are crazy or there's something wrong with you because nothing looks the way it used to. Up is not up, down is not down, left, right, middle, don't compute. The sutra says the Bodhisattva understands how all dharmas never came into being, but they don't exist at all. You go, excuse me, that's a contradiction. You just negated what you said. Right. That's what the Bodhisattva sees. Iche drufa, busheng bumie. How all dharmas don't come into being and they don't go away. And yet they're not there at the same time. And you go, I can't grab that. That's like illogical. Correct. And that's the freak out. It doesn't conform to logic. And that's the way it is. How come he hasn't seen this before? It's because before, essentially, the me inside was still in charge. The self was big. And the self is in there calculating, that's good for me. No, I don't want that. That's bad for me. Oh, more of that. I like that. I don't want that. Right? That's how we are. At this point, that has been so erased, it's been so polished off, that now the Bodhisattva is like this flow of reality. Nothing stops. Ears, eyes, nose, tongue, body, mind, all just flow through. And there's no big me in the middle stopping it, picking and choosing. So what would it be like if you, for example, simple example, right this minute, I'm holding KQED 88.5, right? Public broadcasting signal right in my hand. You can't see it? Oh, well, there it is. Wow. It's mixed up with AM radio signals. Furthermore, I'm going to grab a handful of ultraviolet rays. There they are. Right there, ultraviolet. Kind of. You know? And you go, wait a minute, wait, I don't see them. Well, why not? They're there. Just if you have a camera, you take a picture, you can see ultraviolet, right there on the sensor. So in other words, what? So much of our reality is invisible. What if you received it all at once? What if you were able to pick up all of it? You could see the ultraviolet, you could see the X-rays, you could see the infrared, you could see and hear all the spectrums that dogs hear but humans can't hear. Suddenly it's all there, but we are like severely limited so we can function. Right? They say that a lot of our consciousness has to do with cutting down the amount of stuff that's bombarding us all the time. Otherwise, we'd go nuts. Too much. Okay, the Bodhisattva's picking it all up. But because he or she has samadhi now, they don't move. This is called bu dong di, the stage of no further movement, unshakable stage. So you can pick up all of that and you don't freak out. So a geek friend of mine said, oh yeah, I know what you call that. That's called a single server portal with infinite bandwidth. I said, yeah, right on. What? A single server portal with infinite bandwidth. You can take it all in, and you don't freak out. So how does he do it? We've spent back on page 45 and 46, 44 and 45, the Buddhas come to support the Bodhisattva and say, Don't quit. Don't freak out. This is your new normal. You can do it. Most of all, don't stop, because why? If you stop, living beings are going to be suffering like crazy. Their suffering has not ended. Don't forget your vows. So we've been analyzing, that's what they do. The Buddhas, they say, the Buddhas, more than one. They come to this Bodhisattva who's at this point, who's cultivated the self away, erased the thing, the critic and the editor inside. So now, just by sitting, and even without even consciously sitting, this Bodhisattva can pretty much receive totality of everything. And that's a lot. So the Buddhists go, okay, you're good. Don't keep going. One more step. That's good. Let's go down to breakfast. Don't forget to go to sleep tonight and take your shoes off. And, that's good. See you in the morning. They keep him sane and keep him cultivating so that the natural progression of changes that have happened step by step continue to happen. Because it's very easy to go, this is bonkers, I'm done. And people do. They get to this point and quit. So the Buddhas come to encourage him forward, or her forward. That's what it says. Okay, cool. It's like, wow. The last 3 or 4 verses have been talking about the Buddhas come and encourage. So at the top of page 46, what we just read, this is how those worthy of God's and humans' offerings, the Buddhas, give wisdom to you and help you contemplate in the midst of freakout land, so you realize the boundless Buddha Dharma, and in a single thought, go beyond what you could do before. You're now operating at a level of, what is it, squared, cubed, quadrated? Those are called, not integers. What do you call it when they're, not the roots. It's called, I just lost. There's a word that describes when you square something, when you cube something, exponents. Thank you. Exponentially more. 5 points. Sandy. Exponentially more, right? Up to 10, more. The Bodhisattva can just do more now. And the prose part of the sutra, we're in the verses now. The prose part talked about what he can do now with this new ability. And it's functions of wisdom. That's the word. The wisdom that allows him or her to respond to beings in need just effortlessly. So powerful. There's a seat down there with your name on it, Phil. It says Phil right there. All right. The Bodhisattva abiding on this stage of wonderful wisdom then gets the strength of psychic powers. In a single thought, you can use the female pronoun if you want. Her division bodies pervade the 10 directions the way a ship on the ocean sails with the wind. Okay, something else happens here. And this needs a lot of unpacking, because the Chinese word is shantong. And shantong, if you're a Western-oriented Buddhist, and if you've been, following the Dharma from a point of view of like meditation, for example, which I did for a long, long time, the idea that Buddhism has to do with psychic powers just never, it's like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Psychic powers, the ability to see the past, the present, and the future in a single glance, the ability to see into the heavens and down into the hells, the ability to know past lives in detail, the ability to read others' thoughts perfectly, the ability to, there's one of the fourth one, which says you can walk on water, you can dive into the earth, you can fly freely, you can reach your hand up and touch the sun and moon, you can put fire out of the bottom of your body and water out the top and then switch them, those are the shantong psychic powers that a bodhisattva can do. And they're like, it's really there. It's really there at this point, because why? It's really here at this point. These are all potential, waiting for us to crank them open. Connie, you had a question?
This week I was wondering, when someone attains psychic powers or shantung, is that the same as being awakened or enlightened?
Nope.
It's not the same as
It's
wisdom?
not. Yeah,
Oh.
I'll distinguish. I'll tell you what it is. So let me put a little more context on this. In China, in Vietnam, in Japan, some, not so much, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, where the Mahayana went, and Tibet, it's understood that there's a level of Buddhist function that includes these things. This is almost expected of monks. And certainly anybody who's watched martial arts movies, right? Kung Fu flicks, right? If a Buddhist appears, if it's a monk, he's going to have really long eyebrows. And he's going to have a staff, like this. And he's going to have beads that are this big around his neck. And how do you know him? He goes, Amitofo. And once you see those marks, you know he'll be dead before the third act. He's going to have a showdown with the hero, and he'll go down because he's evil. He's evil. This is the evil monk. And the stereotype caricature of the evil monk is he can go like that. Psychic powers, right? Everybody goes, yeah, monks are terrible. 酒肉和尚, They eat meat and drink wine, drink alcohol. So there's a stereotype. It's a joke. And this has been part of popular Chinese culture. You can find it in the novels of the Ming Dynasty and the idea of when monks go bad, they go bad here, but they're all expected to have shantung. So, psychic abilities, psychic powers. So, Marty Verhoeven, former Heng Chao, and I are in Terengganu, East Malaysia, and we're getting on a plane because we're flying over to Sabah Sarawak. We're flying over to Kuching, across from Western Australia or Western Malaysia to East Malaysia, Borneo. And so the MAS, Malaysian Airlines, which is a fine airlines, it had a lot of bad luck recently. MAS, booking agent, selling us our tickets. He looks and he goes, "Oh, are you monks?" He says with this, attitude. And I'm still silent. I wasn't. This is 1978. Do the math, right? And Marty says, yeah, we're real monks. He says, "Oh, real monks. Can you fly?" He said. And Marty said, "Well, as soon as you let us on the airplane." And the guy's like, "Huh." He said, "You're not the real ones. If you were real, you could fly. No plane," he said. So it's like, okay, it's pretty much understood that monks in Asia are supposed to have psychic powers. So Master Hua, Shifu, clearly, repeatedly, over and over, instructed us. He said, in this country, in the West, do not talk about psychic powers. People are not ready for them. They don't have any context to make sense of them. Talk about virtue. Talk about character and kindness and compassion. That's the medicine we need here, not magic powers. Okay, and this from a monk who, if you read Shifu's 18 Vows, you know about his connection with such things. But he said, not in the West. So, how funny. Today at lunch, I read a story that popped up in the Taipei Times, the English language Taiwanese online newspaper. And the story had to do with psychic powers. There's a woman who was part of, I won't mention the community, woman who was part of a Buddhist community in the middle of Taiwan. Their abbot, one of the top four, the big four, passed away. And he had wealthy followers. This family had a daughter who had cancer. So the wealthy followers, with a daughter who was going to pass away, were targets of an unscrupulous couple who went to them and said, "Oh, you know, I've been talking to our Shifu, who passed away, right, years before. I've been talking to our Shifu, and you know what he told me? He told me that all you have to do is create 4 medical supply companies, and the merit and virtue of that will save your daughter. Gongde Wuliang, limitless merit and virtue." She said, "We'll have one." He told me this. "We'll have one for Chinese herbs, we'll have one for leukemia research, we'll have one for drug manufacturing, we'll have one for supervising everything else. And so start the fund if you want your daughter to live." Spiritual blackmail, right? And the couple, the family, who were really rich, believed that she was in conversation with the deceased past master. And further, she said, she could talk to the various Taoist gods and the Buddhist Dharma protectors, the gods, the dragons, and the Eightfold Pantheon, Tianlong Babu. She was a confidence scammer, and she got the ear of the rich people. And so what did they do? They pumped $8.4 million US, 260 million NT, into a fund, and the scammer couple took the money, put it in their pockets, and invested in their own private bank accounts. And the medical companies that were promised just kind of lingered. There were always obstacles, delays, and stuff. So at some point, this made the news because somebody blew the whistle, and the woman who was the scammer got 7 years, and her male accomplice got 3 years in prison. And they had to return the money. But as I read this story, I thought, man, there's a sucker born every minute. You know, that's a P.T. Barnum line. And you think, what is it about Buddhist faithful that we're ready to believe that somebody is having magical dreams connected to the power source, right? That's what it was. Oh, I'm talking to our deceased Shifu in my dream. I see him clearly, and he told me, we're having a conversation. He said, my message for you is, you know, so if this target couple had been poor, no dreams, no message. It was a financial scam designed to separate these believing people from their money, right? And the leverage, the wedge, was psychic powers, that she had special dreams. So when I thought, boy, Master Hua saying, in this country, in the West, at this time, don't talk about shantong, talk about virtue. And what's the principle here? The principle is, let's say, here's Jinwei Shi, okay, nice tall monk. He's got magical powers. He can see into the heavens. He can see into the hells. He can read your mind, right? He knows who's going to win at Golden Gate Fields tomorrow, right? He's got his finger on your stock portfolio. Does that help your cultivation at all, in the slightest, in the least? Not a bit. We still have to chew our own food and swallow it if we're going to fill our stomachs. His ability to do marvelous things, to, you know, tell me who I was in my past life, is just might as well be a TV show. Might as well be a cloud going through the air for all the good that it does my cultivation. Buddhism is based on cause and effect. Whatever we plant, that's what we harvest. If he plants those, congratulations, you know, glad to hear that you got these abilities. It doesn't affect me in the least. So when people come to me and thank me for making the weather better today, oh, Dharma Master, the sun's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Dharma. You're so compassionate. You know, I go, you are not listening to my sutra lectures. You know, it's not in the person. even if it is in the person, if the Buddha pops up beside you, he can't help you, can't help me in my cultivation. We eat our own food. We harvest our own plant. If we don't cultivate the ground, we got nettles, we got star thistle, we got crabgrass, we got broken nails and cigarette butts in our garden. So anyway, so that's the teaching. So Connie's question, that's a long answer to Connie's question. Connie's question was, is enlightenment the same as psychic powers? No, it's not. Enlightenment, if we're going to define that word, let's say awakening instead of enlightenment. What is enlightenment? It means that I have removed all the stuff covering my nature. My Buddha nature is bright, they say. Brilliant, like 1,000 suns. And I cover it over with every false thought, with every desire, with every attachment, with every thought of self, with every act of greed, anger, and delusion. Covers the nature over so it's not bright, it's not shining. Every evil deed that I do, the killing, stealing, lusting, lying, and drugging that I do, covers the nature, even distorts it, breaks it. So enlightenment, awakening, has to do with gradually, bit by bit, removing those covers. It's silent, it's invisible, nobody knows if you're doing it, but the people around you notice somehow you're a lot easier to deal with than you were before. You're a lot kinder. You don't fly off the handle as much. You're not thorny and cranky and nasty the way you used to be. You know, that's what people see. You're more patient. You're easygoing. That's the signs of somebody who's actually removing those covers from your nature. So, psychic powers. What are psychic powers? Those are innate programs on the hard drive of our nature, if you get the image, right? Think of the metaphor. If your Buddha nature was a hard drive, you could boot up the Wu Yan Liu Tong, the 5 kinds of psychic vision, and the 6 psychic powers. And they can arrive as a result of cultivation in the past. And in our community, when I was doing a pilgrimage, there was a young woman from Hong Kong who saw myself and Marty bowing on the highway through L.A. She was visiting L.A. She spent half a year in L.A., half a year in Hong Kong. She saw us bowing. Something happened. She lived in the fast lane. She was a media personality. She asked the person driving to stop the car. She got out of the car and bowed along behind us, first sight, and discovered that her hands were all bleeding from glass and stuff, and she ruined her $1,000 designer trousers and pants. And she said, "This is the most wonderful thing I've ever done. Who are they and who teaches them this?" And somebody said, "Well, you need to go to the city of 10,000 Buddhas." So they took her up to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. She met Master Hua, and in a matter of months left the home life, and in a couple weeks later, her eyes opened up. And she was able to see things. Master Hua says, this is called Hou De Tong, something like that. It's cultivation done in a past life that now manifests in this life. He said that can happen. But she had not done the work on her mind ground with her character. She hadn't done the virtue part. And so she got harder and harder to work with, and her 5 eyes closed. She lost her vision because it was a separate circuit than the cultivation that she had not done on her mind ground. She wound up calling Shifu a communist and saying he was worse than Mao Zedong at one point. So that was kind of one of those moments when we thought, maybe she's not enlightened yet, maybe. So anyway, so that's a good question. It's separate. It's different. What I understand about Wu Yan Liu Tong, the 5 eyes and the 6 powers, is it's absolutely individual. what happens. Some people have one eye open. We had a guy named Feng Feng, Peter Fawn, Zheng Bide, his name was, the famous author from Taiwan, right? Feng Feng, very well known in Chinese reading circles, who said he had his Tianyan open, his Deva eye. He could see into the heavens, see into the hells. And he came to tell Master Hua about it, tell Shifu about it. Shifu said, even if it were true, do not talk about it. Idiot. I don't know if he actually said idiot, but he said, don't you know what's going to happen? He said, have a little more compassion. You better get ready. So Feng Feng, I remember, he came down, he lived in Vancouver at the time. And he came down to CTDB, and there were all kinds of miracle things happening, and Shifu just shook his head and said, I told you, the Zhenren bu lou shang fei Zhenren. The true ones don't let on. If you let on, you're not a true person, right? If you let people know. So what happened? So Feng Feng published a little newspaper, Tianhua, Sajir, and he advertised that he would be happy to help anybody with their problems using his Tianyan, his Deva eye. The letters started pouring in. The pilgrimages started coming over. The phone calls. The gurneys started to roll up outside his house with sick people on them. Everybody wanted to know about Grandma. What's wrong with Grandma? Can you please help her? And poor Feng Feng just got deluged with requests. And he had to run away for a while. He had to, just because there was just no end. Once he put the word out that he had something special, 与众不同, right? Different from ordinary people. There was an endless stream of truly needy, painfully upset, afflicted people coming to his door saying, help, help, help us. So Feng Feng got afflicted, and his Deva eye closed, and he published in his magazine, please stop writing. I don't have that ability anymore. I'm sorry. And the letters did not stop. They kept coming in. A decade after he was long gone, Feng Feng is off to rebirth, and the letters, people are still looking. Because why? There's so much suffering involved in having a human body. So somebody said to Shifu, you know, couldn't you help Feng Feng? And Shifu says, ask him. Pointed to me. And I said, Shifu warned him. I was there. Shifu said, do not advertise, even if it's true. I'm not going to verify that what you see is true. But you don't. People, you know, the need is overwhelming. And if you think you're going to, you know, so you help, let's say you help one person. Behind that one person there are 10 more. And each of those people have moms and dads and daughters and sons who are waiting to hear whether Grandma got help, whether their daughter with leukemia was rescued, you know. Are you ready to handle all that grief? You know. So what they say, now where do you go if you want to find out the truth about Shantong? You go to the Flower Garland Sutra, the 10 Grounds chapter, the 3rd stage. And we've done that. This was 2 or 3 years ago. We went through and talked about the real Shantong. They're absolutely real. But they're not to be cultivated for apart from a heart of compassion. If you use psychic powers with a self still there, that likes attention, that has preferences and does things you don't like, they're going to turn around and bite you and probably go away. So what the sutra says about the Tianyan, the Deva eye, says if you have that ability, you can see everything going on in the heavens, which level, which deva is doing what. Furthermore, you can see everything going on in the hells without obstruction. You can see who is suffering, who's being chewed up and spit out by the iron dogs, who is being flayed by the iron eagles, who is being thrown into the pit of fire, who is climbing the tree of knives over and over, and then the clever wind blows them back to life so they climb the tree of knives again as punishment. You can see all that. Are you ready? No. And so in Taiwan, it is well known that if you want to make money as a stockbroker, you had better let on to your closest clients that if they pay a little more, you'll use your 10 yen to make sure that they get only blue chip stock. It's true. And those honest stockbrokers who don't truck with shantong don't make money. So how, there we go. So this is this whole world. Westerners are going, are you kidding me? What is this circus sideshow you're talking? This is the world of Chinese Buddhism that's been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. People have developed this interest in phenomena outside of cultivation of the nature. It's really there. Maybe 100 years from now, America will have people using shantong. So if you look in Buddhist history, when the monks first came from India to China, they put their psychic abilities on display to get people to pay attention to them. There's lots of stories about Sharira magically appearing, and the emperor goes, oh, you're different than the Taoists, And they won contests using psychic powers, but they didn't continue to display them. There are stories among the Buddhist disciples back in India where a disciple carelessly showed off his psychic powers that he actually had in order to distinguish himself from his colleagues, so that he would get more offerings, and the Buddha punished him by taking away his psychic abilities, saying you never use these again, even if you cultivate them. So clearly it's there, it's in us to be able to do that, but everybody is watching carefully to see who's a little different. In the Sangha, in our community, and among the monks and the nuns, the Buddha gave us rules so that monks would not be allowed to biao yi xian qi, right? To show themselves off as a little different, a little unusual. Because if you got 20 monks in line, who are the lay people going to make the offerings to? The one who's a little different. Shifu would always say, so don't put your shoes on your head. Don't put your hat on your feet. You understand? And we go, yeah, Shifu? Okay. He'd say, people do it. People do it all the time just to show they're different. Put your shoes on your head and put your hat on your feet. If that's all you have, you want to show yourself. So if you show up tomorrow with your shoes on your head, you weren't listening. So really, monks and nuns would go to like outrageous lengths to tell the lay people that I'm the one. So they get a little more offering, better food, better clothing, better robes. So how interesting. People do that. So here it is. Now, what about all of that in the context of our second verse? The Bodhisattva attains the strength of psychic powers. Why here? Because his self is gone. That filter that could turn him bad isn't there. This Bodhisattva in the seventh stage, the one just before this, was totally devoted to learning how to teach. He or she is 100% focused on getting other people out of pain, getting people through their attachments so that they can let go and flow with their nature. So their wisdom will rise. Anything he can do, she can do to teach, he will. Okay? Psychic powers arrive because why? They're really helpful tools for knowing how to teach. Which is what they're for. based on compassion. And Shifu would say, huh, psychic powers, dime a dozen. Worthless. People get so attached to having something a little different. He says, it's just a circus sideshow. You might as well go look at the India rubber man, you know, or the fat lady, or the bearded woman. He said, there's nothing special about psychic powers. They come and they go. No big deal. And yet, wow, in Taiwan, the place I'm most familiar with, psychic powers are a big thing. All I have to do is hint that I know something a little special about you, and if you treat me well, I might let you know about it, you know. And suddenly, oh, everything's different. People look at me like, they look at each other and, you know, I'm going to get there first, you know. They start competing to draw near the monk who's got the special, and it's like, oh, big trouble. So it's, you know how heavy it is? I'll tell you how heavy it is. At lunch, I don't know if anybody's paid attention to the way I eat lunch on Sundays. I go down the line and I go, tonk, 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 tonk. Go and eat it. 1 spoon from every bowl, unless it's like lots of tofu pea, which I can't eat. I take a little bit from every bowl, because I have learned that if I go, oh, good, the woman who made that offering or the man who made it goes, Fa Sure likes what I cooked. Then they go in the kitchen and they say, did you notice? That bowl's empty first. You know why? That's how heavy it is, right? It's why people like, we all want to be best. We want to be number one. We want to be special. You know, it's just part of being human. And in a monastic community where lay people are absolutely pingdang, absolutely impartial, you can destroy your community by praising one person. I saw it happen in Vancouver. I saw it happen in Calgary. I saw it happen in Seattle. Before monks had enough experience, they would praise one particular Dharma protector, and she would become the kitchen queen. And the kitchen queen, man, that was the beginning of the end. The kitchen was never a day of peace after that. There'd be parties and factions and supporters and antagonists, and certain dishes would come into the dining room and then wouldn't make it onto the counter. They'd be put under the cupboard, you know, and stuff, and dumped in the, it's like civil war in the kitchen. I kid you not. And we learned is you just can't do that. You know, you have to be pingdang. Because why? It's all to the good. We should all be looking at the Buddha, and more correctly at the Buddha, not at each other. Looking sideways is the sure way to go wrong. Fa Sure said he likes your pho. I pray. Remember, Guojian, I praised somebody's pho from this seat once, early, when like the second year we were here. It took about 2 years to undo that mistake. I had to ignore pho for the next 6 months. Every time it came, I didn't take it, you know, because I praised somebody's pho, and after that was like, no, I don't eat pho. Trying to correct the mistake, you know, and like, I guess he really doesn't like it. And then I actually do, you know, but just not that person's pho special, you know. It's like, oh, no, you know. Who would think? That's how, you know, it's like, wow. So you can't, how much the less can you praise psychic powers? That we're talking kitchen, food, you know. So, pingdang. What does Fa Sure really like? And if you hear somebody say, you know, Fa Sure likes this, bingo, no he doesn't. That's a sure sign that that person is missed the broadcast, right? Not. We like a happy monastery. We like a happy dining room, happy kitchen, where we're doing it, why? Because it's good. It's nice to feed the monks. It's nice to have monks who are fed, you know. It's nice to have lay people with blessings. We only serve by being Fu Tian Sang, fields of blessing, Sangha. And if somebody feels preferential treatment, we have failed. The monks have failed. Suddenly yourself is bigger than the blessings you planted by making the offering. Going backwards. So, complex, huh? Really, really complex. Thank goodness Shifu had the wisdom to show us how. As soon as somebody started to like make special offerings to Shifu, you know what he would do? He would not eat. He would sit there and not eat and stare at him. Shifu, please eat. I don't care whose it is. Just eat something, you know. He said, I don't know how many days I've gone hungry. He said, and suddenly, they'd say, oh, because I didn't know how to make offerings, Shifu was hungry today. It's like, oh, I bet you'll remember next time, won't you? Just offer it to the field of blessing, Sangha. Then you get all your blessings and none of the self and its myriad troubles. Right? So, really complicated. In a single thought, his division bodies pervade the 10 directions the way a ship on the ocean sails with the wind. Oh boy. We are now in big league Dharma. Division bodies. Hua Shen, also known as Fen Shen, also known as Ying Shen, right? Response bodies, division bodies, transformed bodies. We used to say transformation bodies, but transformed bodies. What is this? This is pure magic. It's not magic, it's cause and effect, but it seems magical. Which is what? Just like psychic powers, the 5 eyes and the 6 psychic powers are programmed into our nature, so too, says the sutra, there's this phenomenon called the 3 bodies of the Buddha. The Sanshan phenomenon, 3 bodies, Trikaya, Sanskrit. What is the Trikaya phenomena? It's that when anybody realizes Buddhahood, 3 bodies start to function. This is still the same, but there's new functions. One is called the Dharma body. And the Dharma body happens when the self is totally gone. Dharma body, they say, is like everything. There's no self there, but you're still an entity. You are Tong Ti Dabe, same body, great compassion with everyone. And you are free. You're absolutely liberated from any limitation whatsoever. Christians talk about the kingdom of God in the same way. There's another Christian theological word, panentheism, they call it. So it's a special, is it the same? I won't say so. I don't know what the kingdom of God really is, but the descriptions seem to match up. Okay, that's one. What's the other one? The second one is called the Bao Shen, the reward body, or the retribution body, and that's the one that has what are called 32相, 80种随行好, the 32 hallmarks of the Mahapurusha, the great human, and the 80 special characteristics. That's the Buddha image that you're looking at. When you see the curly hair, and you see the long earlobes, and the 40 teeth, right? See the rings around the neck, golden skin, and you can't quite see them, but there's subtle webs between the fingers and toes. Amphibian, interestingly. And there's the Ushnisha, the seat of wisdom on the head, and the white hair tuft between the eyebrows, which is where one of the eyes lives. That's the Baoshan, that's the reward body. Kind of human, but superhuman, right? Extra human. If the Buddha were to walk in here with his 32 hallmarks, he would be the most perfect, amazing physical specimen you ever saw. We'd all be like, whoa, are you a movie star? Wow, you look really special. Do you work out? We would be amazed at the Buddha walking in. That's the Bao Shen, and it comes from what you cultivate. And the third one is the most amazing, marvelous. That's this one, which is division bodies, response bodies. And it's, for most of us, it's a story. You either believe it or you don't believe it. And I just tell it because I'm amazed by it. The idea is, once you become a Buddha, you are able to emanate other bodies that have the job of going to somebody who you can teach, becoming their friend, talking to them, teaching them the Dharma, influencing them to cultivate, and then vanishing, the work done. Could be your best friend. Could be an enemy who actually, by giving you true talk, encourages you to improve. It's not for sure the person who praises you, who says all the sweet things about you, is your real friend. Sometimes your best friend is, what do they say? 忠言逆耳而利于行, right? True words are hard on the ear, but they really help your cultivation. That might be the real Huashan Bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas are not going to pull out their name card and say, well, let's see, here I am, I'm, 8th stage, dude. Did you know? Oh, here, there's the Chinese. There we go. So, yeah, it's it glows in the dark. So that they won't have a, bodhisattva.net, pusa.net or .org, I suppose. You won't know. You don't know who is the Huashan. And did they come? Did they go? You don't know. That's the amazing thing. And they pop up in other sutras. In the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra, you know what they say? Sometimes Earth Store Bodhisattva can appear as a meadow. He can appear as a lake. He can appear as a waterfall or a sunset. The goal of the Huashan is to teach you whatever it takes. It can be your bandmate, your drummer. Do you know the Rolling Stones are still doing it? I was skimming through YouTube today looking for this broadcast. There is a 2018 concert in Blackpool or Blackwell in England. Here's Mick Jagger on the stage, wiggling like always, doing his poses, And by God, he's doing it, There's Keith Richards out there looking dead, dead and warmed over, And there's, the Stones, they're really still doing it. And it's bless their hearts. It's wonderful. There's a 2-hour, I'm not flogging the concert, mind you, but there's a 2-hour Rolling Stones concert, 2018. Those guys are still doing it, And give them, it's 80% of the Stones back in the day, They're old codgers, but they're making the moves. And, please allow me to introduce myself. You'd think it was Mick Jagger. It is Mick Jagger. He looks old, but he's singing and dancing, and by golly. So, pretty amazing. Are they bodhisattvas reminding us not to get old? Reminding us of our youth? I don't know. When they sing sympathy for the devil, probably less bodhisattva. But by golly, they are an important part of my childhood. The Beatles more so, and sure enough in the comments on the YouTube page, immediately people started, yeah, better than the Beatles ever were, dude. Oh, 9 comments replying to that. What do you mean better than the Beatles? The Beatles, just like it was the 60s, when that was the hot topic. Beatles or the Stones, Apple or PC, right? Coke or Pepsi, Ford or Chevy, Toyota or back then it was Honda or Datsun. Remember Datsun? People remember Datsun? If you do, you're old. Don't admit it. All right. So, by golly, there you are. Who's the transformed bodhisattva? Right there beside you. Somebody who has your best interests in mind. Could it be your spouse? Could it be that husband across the breakfast table from you. People are saying, him? No way. Him? He snores. Bodhisattvas snore? Maybe that's exactly what you need to test your patience. Maybe if you got past the snore, you would have been awakened long ago. You don't know. So, yeah, the mind goes, you know, you start thinking, who's the transformed bodhisattva? You know. There are a lot of teachers around, that's right. Do you have eyes to see them? So yeah, there's that wonderful story, the wonderful, wonderful story, the Guanyin story, classic, wonderful Guanyin story. Mingguang Pasher loves to tell this one. He won't mind that I tell it on him. He's arriving by airplane in about 20 minutes, I think. So Mingguang tells about the young, arrogant kid who is really hard on his mom. He's got good roots somehow, but his mom is just the problem, you know. Nothing she does pleases him, and he's thought about running away from home. She can't say a good word to him. He just snaps back at his mom. And he is not filial. He mistreats his mom. But he's still got some good Buddhist connections. So he decides he's going to make a pilgrimage to Putoshan. Going to go to Mount Potola. Nowadays, it would be where? City of 10,000 Buddhas, right? Guanyin moved. Did you know that? No longer at Putoshan. So he goes to Putoshan, and he's looking for Guanyin. He's heard that if you're sincere, Guanyin Bodhisattva will appear to you. But you have to be really sincere. So he goes looking left and right. He goes up to Fanyendong. Goes out to Haichaoyin, Haiyindong. And he goes up to the mountain. He does 3 steps, 1 bow up the steps to the top. Oh, Fa Yu Se, Dharma Rain Monastery. Can't find Guanyin anywhere. And then he's like really upset. He's bought his ticket to the ferry boat, and he's like, he can't meet Guanyin. So he's like really discouraged, and he's thinking, gee whiz, I guess I must, not be a very good Buddhist. I'm not sincere. And this monk shows up just as he's getting on the ferry boat to go back home to Ningbo. And the monk says, young man, what have you come here for? I wanted to see Guanyin Bodhisattva, but I couldn't see her. I guess I don't have enough good roots. Do you know how to recognize Guanyin? He says, well, she's got this vase, and she's got a willow branch. No, that's only if you have the affinities. Do you see Guanyin that way? Many people never see the willow branch and the vase. Well, what does she look like? I'll give you a secret. I'll tell you how to recognize Guanyin Bodhisattva. Oh, please. And he bows. Venerable Sir, quick, I got to get on the boat back home. Can you give me the Cliff's Notes version? Can you do it in 140 characters? Send me a tweet. So the monk says, I believe when you see Guanyin Bodhisattva, she will be wearing her slippers backwards, the left on the right and the right on the left. Furthermore, Guanyin Bodhisattva wears a bathrobe, but it's inside out. And the monk, poof, he disappears. Who was that masked monk, right? And so the guy goes, oh, man, Guanyin Bodhisattva, where could I see Guanyin Bodhisattva? Just like that? Really? Okay. He's really afflicted. His heart is on fire. And so he goes running home, and it's late at night, and he pounds on the door. Let me in, mother. Why are you so slow? Mom's asleep. Well, mom hears her beloved, dear son down at the door, as she always does. First thing she can think of is to help her son do whatever he wants, right? So what does she do? She jumps out of bed and puts the wrong foot in the slippers and grabs her robe and ties it up. She goes down, opens the door, and the son sees his mother with a lantern. Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva. Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva. 哎呀，很灵了, Says, how magical. And from that day on, he became a filial son and treated his mom like the Guanyin Bodhisattva she was from the start, right? So, good monk, huh? Yeah. So, who's the Huashan? Who's the division body? Was it the monk? Was it the mom? Right? So, division bodies are magical. It's hard to, how do you count? How do you figure division bodies? Do they die? Do they just poof like the monk? Do division body bodhisattvas, transformed body bodhisattvas use plane tickets? Do they have to go through security? I've always wondered, it's like the sutras don't talk a lot about them in detail. They just say that they're absolutely real. And if you read the first chapter of the Restored Bodhisattva Sutra, it's called what? The regathering of the division bodies. All the duplicated bodies come back to Restored Bodhisattva. And Manjushri goes, whoa, I had no idea Restored Bodhisattva had so many Huashan out there. Buddha says, yep, that's Restored. So, who's the Huashan? I'll leave it up to you all. Just the way a ship on the ocean sails with the wind, meaning effortlessly. These transformation bodies just go out and back. Through the power of wisdom with effortless practice, you know how lands come into being, abide, and decay, the varieties of realms, their individual characteristics, whether large, small, limitless, you know them all. Okay, another thing happens at the 8th stage as the Bodhisattva goes from consciousness to wisdom. When it makes that shift, what has happened is the Bodhisattva moved from effortful practice to effortless practice. Practice with effort to effortless practice. Which is what? Can you imagine? What's involved neurologically when you say, I'm going to recite the Dabe Jo? Or I'm going to recite the Om Mani Padme Hum? You could probably map it. If you had an EKG, you could, see the lines go up and down. But it's something like, I am going to verb recite. And then you object, whatever it is you're going to recite. So somehow the brain goes, click, click, click. There's a self, there's an action, there's an object of the action. And then you do what you're going to say. You do what you said you're going to do. So that's effortful. There's a time before you do it. There's a time when you do it. There's a result of your doing it. Right? And you're making waves in space. You're setting vector forces in motion, launching karma. Effortful practice is karmically active. You set that arrow flying through the air. At the 8th stage, when the Bodhisattva's mind transforms from consciousness to wisdom, it's all effortless. Everything the Bodhisattva does at that point is like a bird through space. There's no track. The image they give you is before carrying a canoe on your back through the woods, stumbling over the roots, climbing over boulders, getting caught on branches, sweating a lot, right? And it's not a canoe, it's a sailboat. And when you flip from consciousness to wisdom, you turn the boat over, you raise the sail, across the lake you go. Kind of with the tiller, hey, this is the way to go. I like to sail. None of this stuff, or none of that, that's all behind you. Now it's like wind power. That's the difference. And the sutra spends a lot of time describing what the power of wisdom can do now, once you get to that place. It's, again, exponentially, vastly greater. Okay, through the power of wisdom, with effortless practice, what do you know? You can see how a land, how a planet, how a galaxy comes into being. The karma needed to create a land. You can see how those lands survive, sustain themselves, and then become unsustainable and go away. Okay, the city of Shanghai, right? City of Shanghai, who could have imagined Shanghai the way it is now in 1945, at the end of the Japanese occupation? Lots of, I saw this incredible film about that period, that painful, painful period in Chinese history. And the set that they created to show Shanghai was just, it looked a lot like Dresden in Germany, or Berlin after the bombing. Who could have imagined the Shanghai now of endless traffic jams, of gleaming multi-story towers everywhere, Man, Shanghai is truly the 21st century city. And there may be a day when Shanghai is unsustainable, right? Water table or pollution or whatever. Maybe not, we hope not. So worlds come into being, worlds pass away. The city of Kuala Lumpur, KL, is a relatively new city. It's got like 300 years of history. And when it began, what did the Chinese who moved in create first? They built a place to light incense. They built a temple, a miao, where they could go and bow. And it was called Guanyin Tong. Guanyin Tong, right? Guanyin Tang. And those early images are still there. If you come back now to the year 2018, what do you find? You find Deng Bi An, or what do they call it? Heng Zhang has a new name for it. It's the Bo-Ro Guanyin Sheng Si. Used to be known as Deng Bi An. It's our temple. It's our monastery. That was the original Guanyin Tong, right? Right at the heart of the city. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And KL is this megalopolis, right? It had the tallest 2 buildings in the world for years. The Petronas Towers. No longer. Beijing has now eclipsed it, right? Beijing has the tallest now, or is it Shanghai? Tallest one's in Beijing. Yeah. So, but the Petronas Towers were the 2 tallest buildings in the world for years. And that all came from traders going up the river, stopping at this place and putting up their Guanyin Tong just 300 years ago. And you can imagine a day when Kuala Lumpur is no longer the megalopolis. Why? I don't know. But, worlds come into being, dwell, decay, and go away. The world itself, the planet. The word about the ice pack in Greenland melting so fast, faster than anybody thought, right? It's going away and the oceans are rising. Anybody who owns property in Miami, I beg your pardon, I don't want to, maybe move inland, because the waters are rising. What about San Francisco, friends? So, waters are rising. Our planet is in that process, that cycle, Cheng Zhu Huai Kong. So, this Bodhisattva, using his or her wisdom, effortlessly knows as they are how these realms are different from each other. Each of their individual features, he can see them. Big, small, limitless, he knows them all as they are. Why? There's no limit to the editor. The editor in there from before doesn't do it anymore. The one who's in there like, I like you, you're my friend, therefore I'll be your friend. I don't like you, you're my enemy, therefore I'm going to turn my back on you. That is long behind him. Doesn't work like that anymore. There's just the self that was the number one center of everything. You're all outside me, I'm alone in here. That's all different now. Because why? Fundamentally, that's not true. That self that limits, right? It's learned. It's constructed, they say, the constructed self. That's what they study at Dharma Realm Buddhist University, right? In their hermeneutics classes, deconstructing that thing that's in there, thinking, I'm alone, you're all outside me, and you're different, you know. Bodhisattva, step by step, using the Dharma, deconstructs that self in there, and when that's done, what do you find? You're never, ever lonely anymore. You are never alienated. You're not broken from anybody, and you're always, always at home wherever you are. There's no difference between you and not just the people who look like you or have the same surname, but all living beings are family with you on this tiny little blue planet circling around the sun, which probably, if you can see, if you have this kind of, you know, cosmic wisdom, you can see how many, finally you can answer how many planets are habitable, right? How many, where NASA should go next, because you can see all the worlds as they come into being. Now, the Avatamsaka Sutra has chapters all about the creation of worlds. We haven't talked about that much. Shijie Changyopin, the accomplishing of worlds. And they describe worlds all responsive to karma. There are worlds that are nasty, full of fire and rock and iron. Why? Reflecting the karma of the people who live there. And there are worlds like Amitabha's land of utmost happiness, reflecting the karma of the people who live there. And there are worlds like ours, which are half and half, reflecting the karma of the people who live here. So, as is the mind, so is the world. It's not merely metaphor. It's really that way. So in other words, do you mean to say the current administration is the president we deserve? We don't do politics, I want to be clear on that part. Cause and effect would say, absolutely. How could you get a president that somebody else deserves? Oops. Okie doke. By golly, you've spent another 90 minutes looking into the Flower Garland Sutras. We got 2 verses done, 3. One that we did last week. We will continue, and soon we'll be done with the 9th. We'll be done with the 8th stage, going on to the 9th stage. Wow. In the car today, I was describing the 9th stage, and it's a tough one because it's all superlatives. The Bodhisattva state is so out there, it's really hard to find anything that you can identify that is like it. So, what I'm going to do is pick up my banjo and encourage everybody to turn to the back of your songbook, Dedication of Merit. If you have a Dharma request sheet, just flip it over. And if you Dedication of Merit on a banjo, what a concept. So the fires are, I'm going to show you a picture in a minute of the remarkable fire threatening the city of 10,000 Buddhas right now. Abhayagiri Forest Monastery called us and said, by the way, if you all need any help, call us. Returning the favor from last year. So the humans are one part of the story, but think of all the critters that have nowhere to run. They say if you see animals that ordinarily you wouldn't see, leave a bucket of water out, because they are parched and frightened and mostly in need of a drink. Koalas don't drink. Koalas get all the liquid they need from the eucalyptus, that strange arrangement they have with Mother Nature. And when the Victoria brush fires came in 2010, Black Saturday they called it, there's that famous koala who is drinking from a water bottle held by a fireman in the bushfires. And the fireman's holding the bottle and the koala's got his hand, he reaches up and pats the hand of the fireman. Drinking. Check it out on YouTube, it's amazing. So provide water for those critters. Okay, transfer however you would like. Please, the merit is yours. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Do one more. May all become compassionate and wise. Thanks to Father Cyprian Concilio of New Camaldoli Benedictine Hermitage for that arrangement. Dedication of merit. Okay, I'm going to ask Jerry to pop on our projector and bring the screen down. I'm going to walk over to my computer and talk about earthquake preparedness. So, as everybody knows, the Bay Area, Northern California, is on top of not one, not two, but multiple active earthquake faults. And by the way, Tom Brosher is here, Professor Brosher, who was UC Berkeley's seismologist, and has been so for years and years in the United States Geological Service. And UC Berkeley, of course, is responsible for a lot of the the best research into earthquake prediction and such things. So it had come to my attention about a KQED video, a quick clip on YouTube that I had seen that Tom narrates. And he says the Hayward Fault is the one to watch for the East Bay. It goes right under the UC Berkeley football stadium, among other things. And the Hayward Fault, the seismologists know, they dig down in the ground and they find the record of when it erupted in the past. They discovered that, sure enough, the Hayward Fault every 140 years goes off, slips, and the plates slip and readjust. And it's usually to the tune of 6.0 and above. Major, major, major earthquakes. The last time it happened was, sure enough, 140 years ago, plus 10. And when it went off last time, there were 2,000 people living over the Hayward Fault from Fremont all the way up to Richmond. Now there are 2 million, and we're 10 years into the red. Been 150 years, which is to say, could be any day. Now, don't think, oh, the Dharma Master with his psychic powers is predicting earthquake. Don't think that way. That's not the point. I have no idea when or if the earthquake's going to happen. Our best prediction, based on scientific observation and disciplined research, says could be any day. And what do you do with that as the thing? You prepare, by golly. And part of my job, since I have what's called a bully pulpit here, I have a privileged pulpit here. I have a microphone. I got your attention. I want to use part of our time to alert you to this booklet, Protecting Your Family from Earthquakes. Notice how clever that is. Oh, I don't care. I'll be fine. What about your family? Oh, well, I better figure out how to protect them. Okay, I'll pick the book up. What does it say? 保护你的家庭，应付地震安全的第七步布局，7个布局, right? And then, I can't read it. How do you do it? There you go. Precise Vietnamese. Who can do the Korean? Anybody? No. Comment tout le monde protégé entre le earthquake et tout le monde? Yeah, you heard that word. You knew that word. Okay. So anyway, here's the booklet. And why is this in Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean? It's because this is the Asian version. And they did, their census research and discovered these are the most important Asian languages. There's a Spanish and English version as well. So, general information, product. You can get this booklet right here. We have copies in the monastery that I want to pass out to everybody. Now, we're talking fire, right? Well, yeah, but we're also talking earthquake. Here it is. There's our, and I don't have GoToMeeting up, but there it is. It's pubs.usgs.gov/GIP/2007/42/. You got that much? Okay. So yeah, that's the where you get this. And here are media personalities endorsing it. Tells you why earthquakes occur, what's going on, how will it affect me and my family. Follow the 7 steps to earthquake safety, which are all the real stuff. This is absolutely the real stuff. How to identify problems in your home and fix them. Hanging objects that'll fall down, objects on shelves that'll fly around, furniture and home electronics, your big screen TV could fall on you, right? And creating a plan with your family. Where do you assemble in the case of an earthquake? Let's say you're in different bedrooms. Where to go? Safe place to meet. Learn about them. And then the one that I like best. Step 3, prepare disaster kits. We in the monastery have been talking about this a lot. We haven't actually done it yet, but we talk about it a lot. Items to get and how to buy them in bulk, because we've got a lot of residents here. Household disaster kit and personal go kits. Check. What do you want? You want medications. You want a list of prescriptions, copies of insurance cards, doctors' names, medical consent form if you've got kids, first aid kit, first aid handbook, spare glasses, personal hygiene supplies that you might want, sturdy shoes. What if the windows break and the floor is covered with shards of glass and you're barefoot because you just got out of bed? You better have shoes ready quick before you step on the floor. Otherwise, you could be a liability to everybody who's trying to hurry, right? Bottled water, that's like the number one right here. They say 50-gallon containers, get them on Amazon. 3 to 5 days per person, however much that is. 1 gallon or 4 liters per person per day. Get a whistle. Tweet, I'm under this pile of rubble. Tweet, come find me. Emergency cash. Personal ID, your passport, your driver's license, have it ready. List of contact phone numbers, snack foods high in calories, a flashlight or a light stick with batteries, extra batteries, and then kids' comfort items, games, crayons, writing. What are the chances you're going to forget your cell phone charger? What are the chances you're going to forget your cell phone? None, because that's welded to your hand, right? So, but look at the illustration. Here is our test subject who's got those goodies tied around her bedpost because things slide. There, see the shoes right there? See the big flashlight? Smart camper, savvy. So this is the actual list of real stuff. Tell your kids what to do, right? Pet food. Oh boy, pets after a disaster. Woo! Copy of this brochure in your kit. How about that? Isn't this good? This is really good stuff. And then Tom was suggesting we crawl underneath and take a look. What if you've got a lopsided support underneath? If you bolster it with some big chunks of plywood, your building will go bump, 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 and survive instead of crunch and be uninhabitable, like that one. So how to look under your house. Protect yourself when it shakes, what to do. They do not recommend standing in the doorway anymore. That's old knowledge. Why? Doorways used to be made of bricks and wood. Now, they said after earthquakes, they usually found that the doorway was the only thing standing. Not the case anymore. That's a myth, it says. Mostly, doorways are no stronger than any part of the house. So, they say, drop, cover, and hold on. Because if you drop down, you get under something slightly taller than you. That will, like those pews, notice the pew you see in the back? Stuff that falls is going to hit that first. If you're down below, you've got a breathing space, and it didn't land on you. So, under a big table that's sturdy, right? Under a piano, if it's sturdy, right? What to do if you're driving. This book will save your life. If you think that's okay, it'll save your family's life. Then, check for injuries and damage. Gas turn-off, really important. If there's a gas, identify where your gas turn-off leak is. Then follow your plan. Our water comes from Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, which crosses the Hayward Fault and a couple other faults. Chances are we will be on our own for up to a week, maybe. So we should be prepared. Then, here we go. 弯曲为什么发生地震 in Chinese. Look at that. Same information in Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean. So, we have, Jin Wei-Shi, could you go back to the piano, would you mind? And bring them forward, and we'll set them right there. We don't have one for everybody, but we maybe have enough for every household. Okay? And if not, go to, where do you go? The Dharma Master told you. There it is. Go to, nobody's going to remember this, it's way too long, right? But, here it is. There it is. Pubs. Tom, what should they search for? Protecting your, go type that into Google. Protecting your family from earthquakes. Tom, would you like to add anything to what I've said so far? No, you've done a great job. Why, thank you. If only the monastery did some of this stuff, then you could really, We talk about it a lot. Okay, Jin Wei-Shi has now brought paper copies, courtesy of Tom. And by the way, this coming Tuesday is National Night Out. where everybody comes together for a picnic to talk about earthquake preparedness in our neighborhood. I don't know about your neighborhood, anyway. Jinwei Sure, do you want to add anything that I've said here? In terms of this earthquake preparedness. So far, so good? Okay.
Say that you can grab them, they are here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Take one home and actually read it. Oops, who dat? Stop. Ah, there we go. What I wanted to show you next is something very unusual. Which is what? What are we looking at? We're looking at the Mendocino Complex fire. Here is the Carr fire that's now the 6th largest fire in California history. That's Mount Shasta area. That's the bad one. Really, really bad one. That's the one that cut Highway 5. Well, closer to home, in fact, right around Ukiah, California, is the Mendocino Complex fire. And take a look at it. I think what's so interesting is that here is Ukiah, here's the fire, just like a mouth. And something is keeping it from burning here. Talmage is right there, CTDB. See if I've got our, I guess we don't, to make it bigger. Here's the fire. And it's 4 miles, this one is closest, it's 4 miles away. Now this is this morning's map. I don't know what it looks like right now, but the shape of this, if you said that there was an attempt to burn down City of 10,000 Buddhas, the Guanyin session has just finished. Now, we're talking brave talk now. What about next week? There's a prediction that the wind is going to be coming from the other direction. Right now the wind is blowing this way, away from the city. But we were planning the very first Northern California Buddhist family camp. As many of you will know, we've been preparing it for a long time, months, and today we decided to cancel it, postpone it. And the reason we postponed it, see the Talmage Road? That's CTDB right there. The reason we postponed it is because yesterday the sheriff's department came and said, City of 10,000 Buddhas is now on evacuation alert, not evacuation order. That's the next step. Evacuation alert is when you get your go bag, just like we saw for the earthquake, and you prepare. And the fire is just 4 miles away, and if it crests over Cow Mountain and starts coming down, CTDB will evacuate everybody, including the old nuns, you know, and the people in the hospital and all. And the first place they go to is Sudana Center. Second place is City of the Dharma Realm. Our family camp was supposed to start tomorrow night in the Sudana Center. And if CTDB, let's say, for any reason, has to evacuate and they find the rooms are all full of campers, we would feel pretty bad about that. Sorry, you can't stay here. So we thought best to be safe and do the camp next time when it's not a fire emergency. And likewise, fueling the decision was the awareness that if I was a set of parents, if I was mom and dad, and I heard, let's see, the camp is happening in an earthquake evacuation, fire evacuation zone. Let me take my kid up there to the wildfire evacuation zone and let him camp. Yeah, I think I won't do that. You know, so chances are most sane parents would say, no, thank you. My kid is staying home. So we sent out the letter this morning saying, sorry, we were disappointed. We had a great camp planned, but not this time. So that's the deal. And this this map is constantly refreshing. There it is. The fire line is right there. And boy, oh boy, the firefighters who are working like crazy, whew, boy. They are true Bodhisattva transformed into human form. All right, there we go. That's what I wanted to show everybody. And we can turn the lights on. And thank you. Jerry, how many people tonight? 47 on YY. How many? Here. We beat China. We had 57 here. China only had 47. Personally, I am gratified. So, kidding about that. We're delighted that China is paying attention to us. Do you have the projector guy? It's just that everybody knows China's scale is formidable. And they were on the translating in Australia for YY.com. They were on this weekly trajectory to surpass us, and we thought, on one hand, that's great. On the other hand, come on, guys. So this time we have more on GoToMeeting, more in person. Hubba hubba. Okay, let's see. So, Guanyin session is over. We're all waiting to find out what's going to happen up north. Do get your earthquake preparedness book. Tomorrow is the Buddha recitation using the Donglin method here, and starting at 7:30, ending at 4:30. So we hope everybody will come and recite the Buddha's name together. Valerie coming tomorrow, Phil? There we go. Okay. Anything else? Any other announcements? Okay. Tuesday night is First Tuesday for the Abhayagiri monks. Do we know who's coming? Okay. The two new co-abbots. Abhayagiri has had a change of leadership. Ajahn Pasano has gone into semi-retirement on retreat. So he's in Thailand and just happy as a clam, I might add, to pass it on. So Ajahn Krunadammo and Ajahn Yanako, the two new co-abbots, are reputed to be here on Tuesday night. So there, 5 o'clock is a tea session with them, and then the evening chanting, and then 7:30 is their lecture and such. And we're delighted that Chinnai Shur is here with us tonight. Omitofo. Long time away. Glad you're back. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Kai, you had a comment? Yeah. Tomorrow, we give lots of chances to practice. Yeah. Definitely the way you like it will be available to you. So, we can bow to the Buddhas and see you all next week. Keep that transference working. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. 南无大方广佛，愿具华严